Hey everybody, I'm Jeff. We're going to be talking about the Elder Scrolls Online. Specifically, we're going to be looking at something very fun, one of their newest expansion packs, Imperial City. Imperial City DLC we're going to be talking about and reviewing today. Now, the Elder Scrolls Online has transitioned to a subscription-less business model roughly 6 months ago for the PC, and it's been rebranded as Tamriel Unlimited. And then, of course, the MMORPG was thusly released on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One in about June. And, of course, this proved actually to be quite successful, both in terms of overall reception and, of course, more importantly, in sales. And in sales, we mean you only have to buy this once. You buy the main game itself, and sometimes the DLC, but there's no subscription. And so when they announced this new sort of buy-to-play model, buy as in buy the actual game, not like buy to win, but just buy to play the game itself, ZeniMax Online also laid out plans for paid content editions, all this DLC that we've been hearing about, which, of course, there's a lot of that scheduled to be available on about a quarterly basis is what they want. And the Imperial City DLC, this one right here, is the first one of its kind. Though the developer really does hope that's only the beginning of a long list of DLCs that they can provide with real, actual, tangible in-game content that you want to play. Not just fluff on the outside or like new skins or things of that nature, but real story content you can enjoy. As the name so obviously suggests, this Imperial City DLC adds the capital of Cyrodiil to the Elder Scrolls Online. And of course, according to lore, this is historically the seat of power for the Empire, but that is not the case here, since Elder Scrolls Online takes place during the Interregnum, long before the arrival of Tiber Septim. The city, now in ruins, of course, because it's been invaded by the Daedra, can be entered via the sewer system. That's right, folks, you have to sneak into this bad boy in order to actually enjoy this DLC. But thankfully, that is not exactly the most difficult thing to do. And there are, of course, 3 entrances that you can use to get inside. Now, the first thing that you should note is that you have to be ready for some occasional frustration before entering the city, because it really can be rather frustrating. As those familiar with the game already know, Cyrodiil in Elder Scrolls Online is the center of PvP, or AVA, which is the official denomination here. With conflict between the Evenheart Pact, the Aldmeri Dominion, and the Daggerfall Covenant. In practice, this means that you'll have to travel from the closest fortress currently held by your faction to one of the sewer entrances. And at that point, if you don't stealth your way in, there's a good chance to be attacked by an enemy player, because, quite frankly, a lot of people are very happy to engage in PvP, or AVA as it's called here. Now, this is primarily sort of a PvP sort of content, sort of DLC. However, if you are a PvE type of fan and don't really want to be attacked by enemy players, which you undoubtedly will on the way there, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to try to get in your way. It's really frustrating at times. People don't just... if you tell them that I just want to go to the capital and enjoy the beautiful scenery, they're not going to let you for the most part. Anyway, PvE fans shouldn't really despair, because ZeniMax has provided plenty of content for you guys, and me in particular. Starting with a new questline about Molag Bal's final attempt to conquer the world, and concluding with 2 brand new dungeons, the Imperial City Prison and the White Gold Tower. Admittedly, the additional PvE quests don't last quite that long, but if you don't mind grinding, there's a whole new currency introduced with the Imperial City DLC as well, the Telvar Stones. This currency can really only be obtained by slaying monsters within the Imperial City, or scamps wandering in the sewers, who will be fleeing the players, of course, trying to portal away. However, the real game changer is that you can get Telvar Stones by killing enemy players, too. Now, this is particularly exciting because it introduces an element of risk versus reward to the Elder Scrolls Online. Of course, that's not all either, as ZeniMax further enhanced this by adding sort of a multiplier. Essentially, if you are carrying around 10 Telvar Stones, you will get a 2 times multiplier. If you have 1,000, that multiplier becomes 3, etc., etc. And of course, if you're crazy enough to go around with about 10,000 Telvar Stones in your pocket, you get the highest multiplier, which is 4, which is a tremendous amount, actually. And that means that players have to decide on the fly whether they're going to push their luck and try to gain more, get more experience in this particular in the Imperial City, or try to get more Telvar Stones to bring home, or if you're going to play it safe and just go cash those in. Of course, in the latter case, you'll want to deposit those Telvar Stones in the bank as soon as possible, though you can only deposit a minimum of 50 at a time. With this currency, players can buy armor sets at the price of 1,000 per piece of superior, blue, quality, and about 10,000 per piece of epic, or purple quality. Evidently, there's going to be a lot of roaming in the 6 districts of the Imperial City if you want to get a full epic armor set. One thing that became clear after playing this Imperial City DLC is that it's mainly geared towards players who usually play in a party, thanks to their friends or guildmates, etc. Those who prefer a solo experience are bound to have a much harder time, an incredibly hard time, actually, since there will be both player and non-player characters out to get them. Moreover, the dreadful looking for group system still hasn't really been fixed, so finding other adventurers for those PvE type of players that don't have a guild in dungeons and want to go into those dungeons, etc., it's going to be extremely long and fruitless endeavor. You're going to be waiting for quite some time to actually find somebody that's going to want to play with you. So it's best if you actually know somebody or have a group of people that can come online and help you out if you want to actually do this. This is a recurring theme with Elder Scrolls Online and, of course, this first DLC. Now, as a returning player, I found that the merits and the flaws of the base game were both mostly intact. Among those merits are the graphics and the performance that are easily among those best qualities. For example, alongside the quests, which are generally great for an MMORPG genre standards, the story itself is well written, well integrated, though kind of a bit short for the PvE side. However, you are going to find some lag spikes that are still occurring way too often here. When the latency stays at about 250 to 300 milliseconds most of the time, and combat becomes significantly less responsive, paving the way to significant frustration here. It really does get kind of annoying when you press the attack button, even when you want to have a strong attack, and it doesn't quite do what you want when you want it to, even though your connection is generally a fairly strong connection in most cases. It really is quite annoying. Also, while the Imperial City, which includes the sewers, provides an environment that's apt for smaller scale PvP than what you can usually find in Cyrodiil, this does not fill the void of the typical arena PvP that you may want or feel that is missing from the Elder Scrolls Online. So still to this day, even though a lot of MMORPGs are adding in some sort of arena combat mode that you can participate in, it still is missing, even though this might actually be a perfect opportunity to add it within the Imperial City itself, as sort of maybe perhaps another area within the districts. Larger guilds are also likely to be disappointed by the lack of new trials that are in here. The game's equivalent to raids in other MMORPGs. It's been a year since the latest trial, which was Sanctum Ophidia, was added to the game, and it's also been confirmed that no new trial will be featured in the next DLC pack either, which is scheduled to hit live servers before the end of the year. However, there is at least one area where the game has been improved. The veteran ranks grind has finally been significantly reduced, thanks to a 15% decrease in the amount of XP required to acquire a new veteran rank, and to all-around increases in the amount of XP gained from public dungeons, which is up about 100%, and of course veteran rank quests, which is up 50%, and Craglorn, which is up an additional 20%. So if you were used to that grind will no longer be much of an issue, although there is still, of course, always a grind if you in many MMORPGs. Overall, however, the Imperial City DLC is a fine content addition to Elder Scrolls Online. However, it is slightly unlikely that it will significantly change your perception of the game. It's more the same, but this is far from a bad thing, since Elder Scrolls Online is currently one of the best MMORPGs out there, and this continues with that tradition. Thanks, guys. I'm Jeff for Wccftech Reviews.